Welcome back to another episode of In the Green Room with Aidan Keene. Today I'm joined by someone very special, especially in the Elvis Tribute Artist world. This is the guy that really got me started in the business and inspired me to move forward as an Elvis Tribute Artist. And if you're a fan of ETAs, you know who this guest is. I'm joined today by Mr. Doug Church. Doug, thanks for being with me today.
Happy to do it. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm looking forward to speaking with you. The first time I saw you, I was 4 years old, and I'm turning 21 in a couple months, so it's been a long time.
Been about a minute, hasn't it?
Little bit, little bit.
Gotta say, I love your hat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was my grandfather's hat, the one who used to take me to your shows, and I've inherited it.
That's cool.
So,
I have
Doug, I
one
have
much like it.
oh, I love this hat. I wear it everywhere. It's kind of my staple.
Awesome. So, carry on.
My first question for you is one that is it's kind of broad, but as an ETA, I'm sure we all had that moment where we really clicked with Elvis or Elvis really clicked with us, and I'm wondering when that moment was for you in your life.
I was in high school, and a buddy of mine turned me on to the Elvis music by sharing his Elvis 45s with me. And a lot of these songs were actually from the movies. So I cut my teeth on a lot of Elvis movie songs like I Gotta Find My Baby, stuff like that. And from there, it just grew, and I just needed to hear more, and so the more we hung out together, we got into albums, and we'd go to the library, and this is back when you could rent LPs to listen to. So we listened to, That's the Way It Is. That was one of the very first albums that I ever really got into, and, I think I loved Just Pretend before it became a popular thing with the ETAs,
Mm, that's one of my favorite songs on that
and,
album too.
yeah, so basically it was, a high school and, it just grew and grew and grew from there.
Very cool. Is that when you started singing too, or was that later on?
I actually not singing professionally, but my friend and I, we had, some healthy competitions trying to see who could sound more like Elvis, and I gotta tell you, we were both pretty bad back then. It was it was a little rough, but, like I said, it never, really got ugly or anything. We had fun with it. And, I would try to sing a song, he'd go, "That was good, well, let me, try it for you," and then, um, when I moved away from, the town we grew up in, we still sent cassette tapes back and forth to each other. Boy, did I just date myself there. And, we, would do the same thing, we'd get the acoustic guitars out and we'd, sing some songs and send them to each other and say, "What do you think of that?" And so we were just honing our chops in the early days by doing.
Okay, interesting. So it started early, and but the funny thing is, I can't even imagine you singing a sour note. But when did it really develop for you? When did you realize that you can do this thing?
Well, something happened to me that was really weird. I went into the Air Force a couple of years after high school, and I was still trying to sound like Elvis, but not getting anywhere. And it was. I'll be honest with you. Like I said, it was still pretty bad. And I contracted a cold while I was in the military, and it when it finally broke, something happened to my voice. It was almost like I had finally exited puberty. You know? And I know that's absurd because I was, 20 years old by then, but, something happened to my voice and it became clearer and, my vibrato kicked in and it was just blowing me away how, drastic the change was. And so that's when I actually started getting into, talent contests in the Air Force. And, I was going up against other acts, not Elvis tribute artists because there were none, per se, in the Air Force at that time. I was it. So I was competing against vocalists, songwriters, puppeteers, magicians, you name it. It was all kinds of talent. And I was winning dozens of contests over a 4-year period. And it really helped me to get experience on stage with audiences. And I was very grateful for that. But still, at that time, I had no idea that, there were other ETAs in the world. We weren't even called ETAs back then. We were Elvis impersonators, baby.
Right.
So, and it didn't bother me. It doesn't bother me today. If somebody calls me an Elvis impersonator, it's like potato means the same thing, really. So if you get overly sensitive about that, you might want to check yourself because it doesn't make a difference. We still do the same thing. We still show our love for Elvis, his music, and we share it with the people. I think that's the most important thing.
So at that time, what contests were there in terms of the Elvis impersonator world? Because I know the Ultimate probably wasn't around at that point. So what was there really to further a career as an ETA?
Well, there were no big contest, no legitimate contest. A lot of times, bars and things like that would have contests where people would do an open mic night, and some guy might get on the mic and do a little "thank you very much" and try to sound like Elvis, and win a few drinks. But it was nothing big time or legitimate yet. And then, of course, as you may know, that Doc Franklin started the first contest back in '87, I think it was, and, a buddy of mine, Glenn Bowles, was the very first winner of it was called the, Worldwide Elvis Impersonator Contest. It wasn't images yet,
Okay.
and the reason why it was called worldwide is because there were guys from parts of the world I didn't even know existed. There were guys from Australia and Africa, India, you name it, all creeds, colors, races, and even a female Elvis or 2, was in it. So that really opened my eyes to the whole broad spectrum of, the Elvis impersonator contest biz. And, I'll tell you, the early days with Doc Franklin's contest, they were awesome. They were fun, they were magical. The guys got together and we played our guitars in the waiting room, in the green room rather, where the guys were getting dressed and all that, and we didn't have our own dressing rooms. It was just like 50 guys in there just all changing clothes in front of each other and playing the guitar and jamming until it was their turn to come up next, and Doc would come out and, "All right, who's up next? Let's go." And the bands they weren't like Change a Habit and EAS and things like that. They were just a bar band that got together, could play some Elvis tunes, and it was rough, but, it was still fun. The audiences loved it, and a lot of the girls were actually sitting on the floor surrounding the dance floor of Bad Bob's Vapors, which is where the contest took place in Memphis. And, the smoke in the room was so thick, I mean, you could almost cut it with a knife,
Wow.
but, we didn't mind. We were young, we were, resilient, and, we would sing and jam until the place closed. And the contest usually ran all week long, so, if you were gonna go down there and be in that contest, you better be prepared to, buy yourself a hotel room for at least 5 days, depending on whether you made it through the finals or not. But, it was like I said, it was a whole lot of fun, and we got to, go to Graceland while, we were not in the contest at the time, and, visit Memphis, Beale Street, Sun Records. So it was, contest one day and then maybe, doing a Memphis run the next day.
So it's
It's
evolved
not the
quite a
same
bit.
anymore, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I competed in the images once uh last last May for the Empire State Festival, which was the Lake George Festival, which is coming back this year. Um,
Mhm.
I did it once and I got to experience that a little bit, the backstage jams and everything. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, 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 there's nothing like it. And it's the camaraderie and sharing your love for Elvis and his music that, just really makes it worthwhile.
That was the best part for me. And so there's obviously been a steady evolution of the ETA world, gaining that title being one of the things, the Elvis Tribute Artist thing. So I'm wondering what you notice is the biggest difference between today's ETA world and the then ETA world.
Mm, well, the clicks hadn't started yet, you know? not just the ETA clicks, but also the fan clicks, because every guy had his groupies, and some groupies were nice and they clapped for everybody that came up to sing. And then, of course, there were those who would sit there with their arms folded like this, and they'd sit on their hands or whatever until their guy came up, and then, yeah, they'd go nuts, but for everybody else, they gave them nothing. And so, those were kind of the people that you tried to avoid, the drama that is inherent in the whole ETA world. It just that's something that you try to avoid as much as possible, because you want to keep it fun. You want to keep it magical, and of course you want to keep it respectful to Elvis's memory. And I don't think that he would appreciate all these people making a big brouhaha in his name.
That's yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's definitely and I've seen that quite a bit actually,
Oh
and
yeah.
it certainly happens. So, you were also I read while I was doing my homework for this that you and something I didn't know, that you were part of the Legends in Concert cast for quite a while.
7 years.
Wow, okay,
Yeah.
how was that? What was that like?
Well, when I first auditioned for Johnny Stewart, God rest him, we just lost John Stewart a couple of months ago, and that's a sad thing because he was a big part of my evolution. And a lot of guys consider legends in concert a stepping stone or a milestone in their careers, because it really boosts them up, and it puts their name out there. They're suddenly on the map as far as an ETA. But you got to meet other tributes, like Dolly Parton and Madonna, Liberace. I worked with a whole matter of fact, the biggest cast I ever worked with was in Branson, and we had 12 acts on in one night. The show was so long, it was split up between 6 acts, intermission, and then another 6 acts. And of course, Elvis was always the anchor, meaning that Elvis was the last one on stage. So that was a long night, brother, I'll tell you that. So, the show might have started at 7 o'clock, and we weren't done till 10 o'clock. But each act did 15, 20 minutes each, and that was a lot of fun. Until I got on the cruise ship. I worked on the Big Red Boat, which was Premier Cruise Lines, which doesn't exist anymore. It broke my heart when I heard what happened to the ships. There were 2 ships that I worked on, the Oceanic and the Atlantic, and eventually they were sold and scuttled for scrap. And I saw pictures, and it just like seeing a relative. Seeing a relative at the funeral home is like, oh no, you don't want to see him that way
Yeah.
because of the memories. I was on that cruise ship for 2 years straight. It's a long time.
Yeah, that
And
is.
the first 6 months, I'll tell you, it was like a waking dream. It was vacation time, and we worked 4 nights a week. We did 2 nights on one ship, and then we'd park that ship in the Bahamas, and we'd get off for the night at the hotel, and we do the duffel bag drag to the next ship and take that one out for the rest of the cruise, and then another 2 nights we'd perform, and just doing 20 minutes each. But after a while, after that first 6 months, it just started to become tedious, and the double bag drag back and forth between the ships and the airport. Because see, we'd stay in the hotel between ships, but at the end of the cruise, we'd have to fly back to the first ship we took and go back to Florida. So it got to a point where I had 2 of everything. I had stuff on one ship, and I had stuff on the other ship, and I was there over Christmas. So can you imagine a little Christmas tree in one cabin and a Christmas tree in the other cabin? But I'm digressing here. Like I said, after that first 6 months, it just started to become a drag, and doing the same. I say this all the time: doing the same damn 5 songs over and over. So I gotta go. I can't stay on the cruise ship anymore, and so I left and started traveling overseas. And when I was in the Air Force, I was stationed in England. Never thought I would go back to that same air base that I was stationed at and do Elvis shows. That was the wildest thing, because the base theater was still there, and it was a movie theater at this time, and it was also a movie theater then. But I didn't know that there was actually a backstage area with dressing rooms and all that stuff. Um, it was so weird because I never performed in that theater. I just went there to see movies when I was, an airman. And so, like I said, I started doing, shows around the world. I visited, Germany and, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Spain, uh, just as many countries as you can almost name, outside of Legends in Concert. When I was with Legends, I think I only visited, 2 other countries, and that was Russia, Bangkok, and Hong Kong, and
Okay,
those were the only overseas places with Legends. The rest were all in the States. So I did a lot of the traveling on my own, and, thanks to the internet, when that all opened up, I was starting to get more work and more invites to go over to different places and countries and so forth. So, got to see a good part of the world doing Elvis, and, that's been very gratifying.
that's awesome. That's really cool that you've got so many countries. That's fantastic.
Not as many as, a lot of the guys nowadays. Nowadays, there are guys, they're just all over the place and, to places I wish I could have gone, but, never got invited to, Australia and things like that. I really wanted to go to Australia so bad. I guess since the movie Crocodile Dundee came out, I was like, "Man, that's where I wanna go," but it never happened, so, it's on now on the bucket list.
There you go. It's never too late.
Nope, never know.
One of the things, like you just said, singing the same 5 songs, Doug, I gotta say, one of the things that I admire most about you is in the 17 or 18 years that I've been going to see you live, one thing that really stands out is your Beyond 77 show
Mhm.
because it totally gets away from the same 5 songs. In fact, it's songs that Elvis never even did, which is
Mhm.
a really cool thing. And you kinda started that with the did that stem from the Continued albums that you did, or how did that come up?
You're right, it did. When I did King Continued back in man, um, it was, all songs that Elvis never recorded, and that gave me the idea, what if Elvis, see, we went with the idea first, we were gonna call it Elvis Now. And, they actually printed a lot of CDs up with that name, but they had to get rid of them because, of course, Elvis Now, as you know, has already been done. It's been copyrighted, and so they had to go with, King Continued, which I thought was a pretty clever title.
Yeah,
And, after doing the King Continued series, like I said, I got the idea to, actually try to envision what Elvis might have worn, what he might have looked like, what songs he might have sung, and I actually started doing some of the King Tini material, but then I branched out to a lot of other stuff that people sent me on the internet. They say, "Hey, man, this sounds like it's in your range. Do you think you could do this in your, Beyond 77 show?" And Beyond 77 actually started out as Elvis 1982 because I was envisioning Elvis, coming back after 77 to, his second big comeback in 1982, but that was too soon in my mind. He had to take at least 10 years off to, get his life back in order and, spend time with family, uh, get over his addictions and whatnot. And so I think that was a good time frame. But, I can't believe it's been 20 years since I started doing Beyond 77.
wow. That's
And
we
I was
were
like, "What?"
we were just listening to, Continued the other day in the car, and, I usually just listen to it when I'm out driving, but I played it with my girlfriend in the car the other day, and Livin' La Vida Loca came on, and her head turned extremely fast, and but that's one of my favorite tracks on the album, that's so cool.
Oh, yeah. I always enjoy that song. I performed it live a few times, but, it's not an easy song to do,
No, I bet.
outside the studio, the lyrics are, uh, complicated, whatnot, but, it's a fun song. Really is.
Overall,
But,
how would you say that that show was received?
Beyond
Beyond
77?
77, yeah, yeah.
Actually, folks loved the second half of the show. See, the first half of Beyond 77 is just the regular Elvis in the jumpsuit 1977. And then I come back after a video presentation telling the story of what happened between 80 or 77 and 1987, what brought him back. But then when I come out in the different costumes and I do the different songs, folks would come up to me after the show and say, "Man, we really loved that second half." Because of course they've seen the first half ad nauseum. They've seen me do, the jumpsuit many years, but just to give them a fresh outlook and a perspective on Elvis and his music and all that, they were able to put on their imagination cap and immerse themselves in the story, which was what I was really going for, just hoping that people wouldn't sit there and cluck their tongues and go, "Nah, Elvis wouldn't have done that. We're out of here." That has never happened. People will sit there and they'll watch the video presentation, which I put a lot of thought into, and then do the different costumes. And I went through dozens of different costume ideas, and some of them were not that great, I'll tell you. But I finally got to where I was able to have some seamstresses and tailors make some good stuff for me, and we came up with some good ideas, and we've gone through different flashy jackets and things like that, two-piece outfits, and never a jumpsuit though. That was the idea, to get Elvis out of the jumpsuit and into something a lot more comfortable, a lot more age appropriate for a 50-something-year-old Elvis.
I'll tell you one lasting impression that you certainly made during that show was actually on my grandfather that I mentioned earlier. He still to this day, and this was about 10 years ago that we saw it, I'd say, he still talks about your version of Statue of a Fool in that
Mm.
show. It was he was not expecting that at all. So he was when I told him I was having you on, he told me to tell you that he loved that.
That's a great song, and it's not really, in my opinion, it's not really mainstream. It's a song that you have to really be a hardcore country music fan to know that song. And when someone sent that to me, at first I balked at it. I said, "I don't know, it just doesn't sound right." But the more I did it, the more I thought, these lyrics actually are appropriate for Elvis. You know, the way his life had gone, and I wanted to also do a song called "The Elvis Letter" by Wayne Newton. But unfortunately, that would have been Elvis in the first person, you
Mm,
know, so I couldn't really do that. It was a tribute song about Elvis, and you can't have Elvis doing a song about himself, right?
right. Right. I gotcha. One of the things that I take pride in it and I also don't at the same time is through my musical career, I'm pretty much self-taught. And
Mhm.
I never went through vocal coaching or anything like that, with one exception, which was Sing Like the King. And I learned a lot from that, especially
Mhm.
the 70s stuff, because for the past few years I've been doing 50s and 68, and I pretty much capped it there. And now I'm diving into the 70s stuff a bit more with your guidance. And I'm wondering where that idea came along for Sing Like the King, because I know, having heard it from other ETAs, that that's helped a lot of us along the way.
I'm really gratified to hear that, because I always wanted to try to impart my experience and knowledge of how I uh, perceived Elvis's music. And there was a program when I was a kid that was called Hooked on Phonics. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I have.
And I basically used that principle, that concept, to break down Elvis's songs phonetically. So rather than spell the lyrics out the way they're written, I spelled them out the way they sound, and then put them back together. And it was amazing that the transformation it had had on some of the guys who contacted me and said, "Man, I cannot believe what a difference it's made in my vocal presentation." And that is gratifying.
Absolutely. One of the songs that I took a lot of time learning from your video was Can't Help Falling in Love. Because when you broke it down and you spelled out how he says these things, was like, and I re-listened to it, and it's you can actually hear it once you said that, and so now
Mhm, mhm.
I think I do it the right way.
Well, I appreciate that, I really do. I'm so glad that it has had a positive effect, and I know that there are probably some guys out there who think, "Nah, I already know everything. This can't help me," but even Tiger Woods takes golf lessons from time to time to sharpen his game, so, you might find something in there that, you never considered before. It's always good to
Absolutely.
sharpen your chops.
There's one Elvis song that I still struggle to sing, and that's "Surrender," and, I was
Amen to that.
I was talking to, Dwight Eisenhower about that one, and he told the story
Mhm.
about how Elvis literally had to heave that note out. So, I
Bet.
think I freaked my parents out sufficiently when I was walking around the house trying to practice that, but I'm getting it. I'm finally getting it.
That's good, yeah, practice, man. Keep hitting it.
Trying my best.
Sometimes like a rubber band, you have to pull it way back to shoot forward.
There's been a few shows where I've had that in the set list, and then I'll turn around and I'll be like, I'm skipping that one."
I'm gonna read the room here, I think.
Absolutely. I wanna go back to the contest here for one more question because it's something I'm curious about, because like I said, I've only done the one, and I'm not really sure if I'm gonna pursue it because there was good things I saw, and there were some not so great things behind the scenes that I saw. Um, but my question for you is about the basically the overall results, because 'cause I've talked to many guys who some have the voice and don't necessarily have the look or vice versa. When it
Mhm.
comes to judging and the results over the years, what do you think that a lot of times they get right and sometimes judges may miss?
Well, and I've judged some contests, over the years, and trust me, it's not something you wanna do. It's very hard. But, if I understand your question, um, some of the things that, the judges will look for is, not just vocal interpretation, but also, uh, how you handle yourself on the stage, how you handle an audience. And, there's something I call scooping, okay? And that's when you scoop your audience into you and you bring them into your experience. And if you're able to do that, it doesn't matter if you're a good singer or if you look like Elvis. If you're connecting with that audience and you're scooping them in, you got half the game won right there because that makes you a great entertainer. And I know a lot of entertainers like that who, they still have some work to do on their act, but, they just, they're good communicators, and, they can, thread their, songs together and tell a story and tell some jokes. Elvis was a humorous individual, so if you can do that stuff too, then, that's something I think the judges can also appreciate if they're not too stiff-necked about it, because I've had some judges, mark me down in a contest for joking around. They had no idea about Elvis. I don't even know how they got to be judges because Elvis was a humorous guy and he cracked up on stage with the guys. And he always said that, what was that phrase? He said that, I think the reason why angels fly so high is they take themselves so lightly. And that was how he felt about himself. If you can't take yourself lightly on stage, people are going to feel that. They're going to smell it. They can, like fear, an animal can sense fear. And so they can tell when you're uncomfortable with them, then you're gonna make them uncomfortable, and they might squirm in their seats and whatnot, but, you walk out on the stage, you act like you own the place, and that's what's important, doing it without being cocky or overbearing, but just go out there with confidence, and, I think that's another thing that the judges, they really follow that.
Right.
Did I answer your question?
You did. You did.
Okay.
It was tough for me in the contest because I think a lot of times people will automatically gravitate towards the jumpsuit Elvis, although I have to say there were quite a few, 50s people in the contest, most of them being my age.
Mhm.
But do you think that judges will kind of automatically, I don't wanna say automatically mark down, but if how do I put this? I'm only 120 pounds, so finding 70s clothes and things like that that actually are, that will look right on me is difficult. If
Mhm.
I walked out on stage in a contest wearing, a jumpsuit from 75 onward, Is that would that be an issue, do you think, in terms of judging?
I think it would, if you you might have to get some padding put in there, to, flesh out a little bit, but, you contrary to, popular belief, Elvis wasn't always fat
No?
from 74 on, I mean, his weight did fluctuate, but, it wasn't really fat per se, he got bloated from, um, medications and, eating a pound of bacon in one sitting, that will blow your ass up, because of all the sodium and whatnot. But, if I see a really skinny guy wearing, say, a prehistoric bird suit
Mm,
or the sundial suit, it doesn't quite fit the motif, you know? It's
right.
better if you do like a Cossack suit or, the, what's another one? Just any studded jumpsuit from, say, 72 to 74. Those are good too. Even like the sunburst, things like that.
Right. I do a lot of the two-piece suits too from, like, summer '72 kinda
Mhm.
thing,
Yeah,
because
those are
those
great.
seem to go alright.
Mhm,
I have one more question for you, and this was one I'm very curious about because
mhm,
I think it's really cool that there's a lot of they call them up and coming ETAs that are from ages 15 to where I'm at about 21.
mhm,
And when I did the contest, 3 of them were in the top 5. I think one of them was 16, 18, and maybe 20.
mm.
Given your legendary ETA career status, what is your advice for up and coming ETAs in terms of pursuing in this career and, you know, keeping this music alive and appearance alive?
It's a great thing to aspire to, you know? Um, I had 10 rules for the ETA, back when I worked with the, Elvis Entertainers Network, and I'm not gonna go over those with you now, but, one of the main ones was always record yourself and listen back with a critical ear, and don't listen to your mom, don't listen to your family telling you, "Oh, you're so wonderful, we love you," because that's not helping you.
Right.
Always be critical. Never compare yourself to another ETA. Always compare yourself to Elvis. And that's the only way to improve.
I was in that trap for a while. And I've heard people talk about it before on Ryan's podcast, being an ETA fan even more than being an Elvis fan and studying
Mhm.
ETAs. And for a while, especially in the beginning, because that was what I was seeing live and in person was the tribute artists. I'm like, oh, cool, I want to do that. But then you think about it and you're like, okay, but what they're doing is paying tribute to somewhere else, someone else.
Right.
So I've learned that over time, and now I'm just constantly watching footage. I can't wait for February 20th with Epic.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's, just buzzing about that one, you know?
Can't wait. I know a lot of it's
Just
already been
it
seen, but
Yeah, it's just the, cutting room floor footage, but still, you're gonna see stuff that you've never seen before. It's gonna be like watching a whole new Elvis concert. So I'm looking forward to that myself.
me too. I can't wait for it. That's gonna be awesome.
I wish I'd had this stuff back when I was starting out because, a lot of guys, all we had were, That's the Way It Is on tour, and then, of course, we had, This Is Elvis
Mm.
to draw from, and those were also taken from Elvis on tour, but, we didn't have a whole lot of, footage to study, and so we had to imagine a lot of the stuff in our heads, and, we would see some guy doing something that didn't look like it should be, in a concert, and we go, "Oh, Elvis never did that." Then we find out later, this guy had a bootleg copy of a video or something, a Super 8, and it's exactly what Elvis did, and we're like, "Oh, man, I wish we'd known that back then."
Exactly.
Would have really helped, you know, would have helped us, but it's always been more important to me to be a singer, to sound like Elvis more than look and move like Elvis because that's what Elvis was first and foremost. He was a singer. People heard his voice before they saw him, and a lot of folks thought he was a black man, and, so that's what strikes me as humorous because, these guys are like, Well, we don't want no Negro music. We want white singers." "Well, Elvis is white." "Get out of here." And so it's just it's funny. Um, anyway, I don't wanna digress again, but,
That's okay.
it's always been most important to be a vocalist than to be, everything else. So that's what I concentrated on mostly.
It's me too. The vocals is very important, and the bootleg thing is really because I grew up in the YouTube generation, I suppose, but
Mhm.
even then, I mean, I didn't start really researching until the past 5 years and finding things that are just I just recently bought on eBay the Like a Black Tornado album recorded at the Boston Garden. I did not even know that that existed until a couple months ago, and, it's not great.
Well, a lot of that stuff is Super 8, and then you put the actual audio, soundboard recording with it. But, like I said, the quality's not great, but again, it's footage that you've never seen of Elvis before.
And there's so many different versions of one song, especially I think it might be Polk Salad Annie, but there's every show you listen to, it's different, it seems, anyway. And so
Mhm.
it kinda can change it up as much as you want, but that's really
Well,
cool.
Elvis got bored too, he had to shake things up a little bit.
Right.
So he'd go, "Man, let's try it like this tonight, and we did that already, let's try something else."
I do that sometimes at rehearsal, and I think my band gets frustrated, but
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't want to have to relearn stuff.
there's that, and I always I know all these songs, and when I write my set list, I could give them a list of 60 songs, and it won't be any sweat off my back, but I'll give it to them, and they'll be like, "There's like 60 songs here, what am I supposed to do with this?"
Get to
We
work.
always narrow it down.
Yeah. Get to work, boys.
Exactly.
Some of the guys will actually take the good time and trouble to chart the music, like some keyboard players will have their tablet
Yeah.
and, they'll have it all charted out, which is great, and if you deviate from that, oh, you will get the stink eye.
Yeah, I've gotten that several times.
Mhm.
So what's new for you in 2026, Doug? Is there anything coming up for you this year that you would like to get out there?
Yeah, I've got my Salute to the Stars show that, I'm producing. I've been producing for a few years now. It became, mainstream, um, right during COVID,
Okay.
and, I work with acts, like tribute acts from Legends in Concert. So, basically, it's a form of Legends in Concert, these are, legendary performers that, I put in my shows, and they're all pretty, small, like 3 acts, and they'll do half hour each. It's a 90-minute show. A lot of times it's tracks, but then we'll do a band show with these acts, and, I'll be promoting more and producing, and, so, if you're looking for, work, just give me a holler, and, I'd love to put you in one of my shows.
I'm looking for work.
There are a lot of people out there looking for work, it's not a lack of, performers, it's a lack of venues,
Right.
because so many venues are getting saturated with tributes nowadays, and, I remembered when I first started doing, Salute to the Stars that, there were very few tributes. And I had a heck of a time trying to convince them that tributes was the way to go because, you can see your favorite character or band without paying full price. Like if you want to go see, say, Three Dog Night, they're actually still out there, believe it or not. You want to see the real thing, it's going to cost you 300 or 400 bucks for a ticket when you can come out and see our Three Dog Night tribute for, a tenth of that.
Right.
So
And that's kinda
that's why a lot of folks are gravitating towards the tributes.
we have venues here in Massachusetts, that's pretty much all that they have now is tribute shows, and
Exactly. I just see it everywhere, and I try to, get Salute to the Stars in these venues, and they're like, "Well, we've got enough tributes for now. Thank you very much."
yeah. That's why I've kinda made a home of senior centers and nursing homes because I can always get in there, that's never an issue.
Mm, that's right.
But
It's
they
not a
love
lot of
it.
money, but you're making some folks happy and, just you're working.
That's the most important thing is making the people happy for sure.
I'll admit, I still do a lot of those myself. I have an entire circuit of nursing homes, that I do probably 12 of them a year, and, I take my equipment out there, it's all very small, 1 speaker with a tower
Yeah,
and a microphone, and it's easy to lug back and forth, and, like I said, it's not a lot of money, but, you make a lot of people happy.
for sure. I love doing it. That's most of my career out here in Massachusetts is nursing homes, senior centers, and restaurants.
Mm, there you go.
But yeah, that's a lot of fun, and I've built a very nice following here. So
You could probably go on YouTube and, I was told I have over 1,000 and some videos of my shows on YouTube, so you could probably go on and see me singing in a restaurant somewhere over the years.
I'll have to take a look.
Yep, there's a lot of them out there.
Very cool.
I think there's one called Mancino's. Look that one up, and I think you'll enjoy that one.
Write that down. Awesome. I will definitely check that out.
Cool.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. This has meant a lot. And I consider this a full circle moment because, like I said, we've met several times over 18 years, but it's nice to be able to sit down and talk with you.
Well, I'm sure you started here, and now you're up here height-wise.
Yeah, just about. Well, we were at your show in December, and
Uh-huh.
we had a lot of fun with that one. I think that was my. I've seen you over 20 times. I'll say that.
Well, how old were you when you first saw it?
3 or 4. I believe it was
Wow.
in
Like Jimmy
2008.
Holmes.
Jimmy Holmes.
Well, Jimmy Holmes came to my shows with his parents, and he was 4 years old, and I would stand him up on a chair, and he would do his hound dog song and wiggle for the crowd, and they would scream and holler for him, and he just ate it up. He was a natural.
And I remember, I don't know how I remember, but I do. The first time I ever saw you was a show called The King and the Killer. It was you, Leo Days, and Lance Lipinski.
Lance Lipinski, I could tell you the theater that was in too. That was, up in mm, it was in Massachusetts, wasn't it?
There were two in Massachusetts that I saw.
There was one at the, Regent Theater in Arlington,
Yep.
and I forget the name of the other theater, but it was a bigger place, I think.
Yeah, it was the Hanover Theater in Worcester. It
Hanover, thank you.
was there too.
For the life of me, I couldn't remember that. But, yeah, those were good shows. They were a lot of fun, and, I don't mean to tell tales out of school, but, Lance was working so hard during those days that, in between the acts, he would be in the green room on the couch snoozing, and we'd have to poke him with a stick, "Lance, you're on. Get out there." And he'd pop right up and go out there and light the place on fire.
You sure did. That was the one and only Jerry Lee Lewis tribute that I've ever seen. There's
Mhm.
not a whole lot of them out there. But,
Yeah, the man was electric. It's amazing.
so that was my earliest memory of seeing you when I was just a little guy.
That's cool.
Well, it's been an absolute honor speaking with you, and I hope to see you again very soon. Maybe
Good talking with you, Aiden. I'm glad you invited me to do this. I really am. Appreciate that, really. I mean, like I said, it's gratifying to know that I actually was able to make an impact in somebody's life.
absolutely. You sure have, and you continue to do so. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
And for everybody listening, I hope you'll join me next week. On Monday, I'll be sitting down with Peter Asher, a legendary artist from the British invasion, Peter and Gordon. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. Until then, may God bless you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening.